Well, hello, everybody. Rob O'Friel here once again talking about what else? Music, my favorite topic. And here today with somebody that, believe it or not, really knows his music. He grew up very close to some of the greatest music ever made. You know him, you may not love him, but we found out recently you really can't live without him. Local radio putz, as he calls himself, Eddy Crow. Eddy, thanks so much for dialing in with me today.
Oh man, glad to do it. What do you mean, believe it or not? It's like, oh, that guy can only scream about the Steelers and the president. Oh, wow, seriously.
People, they can't live without you right now. It's really been people want their Eddy Crow, and over the years you've done some local radio, doing sports, doing talk, doing news. People might not realize that Eddy Crow has another secret side to him. He knows just a thing or two about music.
I do talk about it on, it comes up because music universal, so it's never a bad discussion topic, but that's my sanctuary. And like a lot of music geeks, and you know this, you just absorb yourself in it. And I was absorbed in it from the time I was born. I didn't know about it, the absorption rate that was going on at the time, but that's always been something. That's the universal. That's why I got into radio. The notion of somebody's going to pay me money to sit in a room by myself, that was important, and listen to music. And that's why I started doing it. And that was a long time ago. So, and music still, where's it at? Here you go, bud. Rob, who's still packing the original iPod brick?
Mine is in the car. It's a black one, just like that. How many gigs you got there?
I got the big boy.
Yep.
Is it 128? I think no, 160.
160.
160.
I don't think they make them anymore.
No, they haven't. There are 35,000 song cuts in this stupid thing.
Wow.
Now, some of those cuts are 8 seconds long and they're noises because it's sound libraries that I stole, but there's that many different ones.
So there's a lot of music inside that brain over the years. You said you were born in Muscle Shoals, so it was probably just like seeping through the front door, I guess, right?
At the time, you don't know that. At the time, all you knew was when we would take my grandmother to the grocery store, we drove past the front of Fame Recording Studios. And I didn't know about the Allman Brothers. I mean, I'm a little kid. The only music at that point that I heard around on the radio or in my grandmother's house was gospel or country. And I mean, real country, Hank, original Hank, old school, Berlin, Husky, all of that stuff, right? It wasn't till later that I found out, oh, one of the Allmans was a session guy there. Oh, everybody on the planet recorded there. Oh, Rick Hall started that. I remember as a kid, we would drive by there, and it's such a weird cultural thing. You got to remember, this is Northwest Alabama in the early 70s. And as a kid, I didn't know what that building was, but in the parking lot, on occasion, you would see white guys and non-white guys hanging out together. And that was it's like, that's weird.
Something's happening here.
Yeah, that's so strange that was the culture that stood out to me. And you'd see guys with long hair at the Biscuit Village, which was right around the corner on Woodward, and it was 24 hours. So late night, you'd see the hippies down in the corner eating. That was it. The City of Muscle Shoals Police Department, the patch on the shoulder is the state of Alabama with a gold record on it.
I didn't know that.
I got schooled up pretty quick with that, and then getting into radio, and it was free money. Listening to music, brilliant.
They're overpaying me. Whatever it is, they're overpaying me, huh?
Well, my first full-time gig in radio, I made $2,000. Now this is full-time, midnight to 6 days a week, plus production. You know what I'm talking about. My salary was $2,000 less than the national poverty level.
But you were happy. You were thrilled, right?
The boss was cool enough to know what was up, We would get music service, and this was back in the day that if you gave away a CD, the record company would give you 4 or 5 boxes of them, right? Every non-payday Friday, our boss would let us go through the prize closet. As long as we didn't take the last copy, he'd let us steal one of every different new thing, go instantly to the pawn shop across the street. That's how we ate until and when the engineer came to town, we had a contract engineer. We saw him once every 2 weeks. We'd save our money. And when the engineer was in town, we'd all run. There was a diner in town, and that was it. And you're right, free money. You didn't care. Concert tickets, T-shirts.
That's money. Better than money.
I got enough. Yeah, we got trade for the sandwich shop. Okay, I'm good for another week.
When did you finally make that connection, though, that the music that was being recorded down the street was now some of the music that you were playing or listening to?
When I got old enough to listen to that kind of music in the house. Honestly, I knew the history and I knew Rick Hall, but my dad had albums, but my dad's musical albums were Ray Conniff Orchestra, Mitch Miller Singers. Nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't move, right? I remember one of the biggest discussions that ever occurred one year, and this was later. I wanted Kiss Alive, the first live record, for Christmas, and my dad, it was not happening. And I think my mom worked that out, but I got Kiss Alive, and I remember thinking, okay, it's not that I got my way, it's that he's being tolerant of stuff that he wouldn't be in. So that was a big thing. Me and Dad, when I got the Kiss Alive record, I mean, it's a good record. It ain't all right, but it meant more that I basically was addressed as you can make your own decisions, right?
So it was a gateway record.
What was the record that he had that he should have never had? My father, until the last 10 years, I would have described as humorless. I mean, he's got a sense of humor, but as far as sitting down and watching comedy or anything like that, he had a Jonathan Winters record. He had the Button Down Mind Strikes Back by Bob Newhart, and he had a Smothers Brothers record. How my dad ended up with a Smothers Brothers record, I have no idea. No, it's like, wait, really? And I'm 7 years old, and I'm listening to Smothers Brothers. The Smothers Brothers Show, I think, was the name of the record. And I don't understand any of the jokes, and it's all dated political stuff anyway, but I'm hearing the timing of the laughter. And then you put on the Bob Newhart Button Down Mind Strikes Back presentation, and you get into the rhythm thing and the meters and all that creative writing business. You want to learn how to have timing. That was the record. So his record collection, I still remember going through thinking, why is a Richard Pryor record next to a Ray Conniff Orchestra? Quite unsettling.
But you got through it, though. You got over it.
Yeah.
So part of the reason I asked you to talk here about, you're on Facebook, I believe. Yeah, you're on Facebook. We've
Eddy
seen a lot of
Crow
people.
And Crowtopia.
Crowtopia, which I love. I love the name.
You want to buy a shirt?
Maybe.
Okay.
And we'll have to negotiate that there. So
I'm gonna grab a T-shirt real quick and scribble with a magic marker. Here you go, bro. $20.
A lot of people are posting about the impactful album, the albums or the records that influenced them or impacted them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been fun to read and see some of the picks that people have made. So I had asked, threw the idea out to you about talking about these, and you asked a very interesting question. I said, can you talk about, an influential record? And you said, professionally or personally?
Right.
And I said, yeah, about both, which is a very interesting take. I hadn't thought of the idea of separating those two out. So which one do you think you'd like to talk about first?
I personally, because, well, it's first in line. It's how I remember. And I don't remember which record it was. I know it was one of two records. It was either Verities and Balderdash or Sniper and Other Love Songs, Harry Chapin records. And at the time, one of those records, it had Taxi, Better Place to Be was one of those records. But at the time, radio was AM radio, unless you lived maybe near some underground college station where you'd score King Biscuit Flower Hour, Dr. Demento, stuff like that. Radio was AM radio, and the stuff on the radio at the time, it was there. Nothing wrong with it. I've got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key. Run Joey on Dead Man's Curve. Anything Donnie and Marie. Puppy Love. Okay, just that's what it was. And then all of a sudden, I remember hearing it was Taxi. I'm sure because that was the one that people finally said it get played. I heard that, and it flashed me back to the Bob Newhart record. You talk about the timing with words that's possible. That was the timing with words that was possible. And there was an acoustic guitar with it. That made me understand it didn't just have to be bubblegum, and there was nothing wrong with that stuff, but it pointed out words can be enough to carry a song. And retroactively, I thought, oh, well, that's kind of what that Bob Newhart thing was as far as the timing and the pacing and the just with music. And Harry Chapin led me to, well, John Prine. To this day, I walk down the halls singing John Prine songs. Anything off Storm Windows, I can sing front to back. I wore out 3 cassettes on Storm Windows. But Harry Chapin led me to John Prine, Bruce Coburn, all of them, Cat Stevens, anybody. And you know this, there was no such format as AAA. There was not anything called Americana. If you played an acoustic guitar and it was about words, you were a folkie, all right? All of that stuff started with Harry Chapin, Teaser and the Firecat, and Tom Waits, Dear God. The record that I found was Blue Valentine, used in a record store right next to the water pipes. 1978, I think, is when it came out. I knew nothing about Tom Waits. I put Blue Valentine on and I'm like, wait, I think I recognize that song from that play. Oh my God, who is this? And that further cemented not only words can be enough, but you can totally get demented and twisted and make a simple word have complex meanings with tone and with attitude, and all of that opened up because of Harry Chapin. Those first Harry Chapin records that I heard. That was personal.
That's very interesting in that you were talking about AM radio, and
yeah.
The album that I put as my most impactful was Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and the reason I chose that one,
yeah,
that was a gateway for me, and maybe the album cover too. It's like this, he's pushing through to the Yellow Brick Road and leaving it, I guess.
Well, no, wait, that's a different topic. You can do an entire series on what album covers scared you or made you that.
Oh.
There you go.
Probably the second one, the Who's Tommy album cover. But Elton John, when I first heard that album, to me, music had just been those songs on AM radio. And it might have been, I remember finding the album in my aunt's, we lived with my grandmother for a little while. Okay. My aunt had Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and I put it on. I'm like, I mean, an artist can have more than one song, and they're not all played on the radio, and they all sound different. And
they're not all 3.5 minutes long at most.
Yeah. And they together might even tell a story or have a theme. And so that was my introduction to, it wasn't just, singles on 13Q that I was listening to at the time.
Yes.
And that became my gateway then to The Who, because Elton John was in Tommy. And that just opened up a whole other path for me. So it sounds like Harry Chapin might have done the same for you.
Where are you on Quadrophenia?
I love Quadrophenia. I both the movie version and the studio version. It's hard to pick a favorite. I was introduced to them, I guess back in the mid 80s. Tommy was my big introduction to The Who, just because of the Elton John influence at that point. I was so mesmerized by him on playing the pinball machine and the boots that were like 9 feet tall.
The glasses, come on, man. Yeah.
So The Who was just a byproduct of it, and then I'm like, well, hey, these guys sound pretty good too. Let's check them out.
Where were you on the Kinks? because I thought Sleepwalker was a brilliant record. And another, Celluloid Heroes, that song's not about music. That song's about words.
See, the Kinks are a band that I need to delve into more than I have. I have a cursory knowledge of them.
Right.
They've got a really great song called Gasoline Alley that I played on my show. It's a very bluesy song, but they're a band that I need to dig into more.
I've noticed through talking to music people, it's one or the other. It's either, well, it's a three-way, one or the other. People that really dig the Who, the Kinks are all right. People that really, the other argument is you were a Who or a Rolling Stones or a Beatles. So there had to be a one or the other kind of thing. The Kinks, I love the Who. Ray Davies still doing, you talking about a weird dude too, by the way. If you're a fan of Goofy, oh dear Lord, out of his mind. He's one of those guys that he's the smartest guy in the room and that just cracks him the hell up. Stuff that would fit on your show. Kinks, the Muswell Hillbillies record, it would dead fit on your show, guarantee it. Muswell Hillbillies, Muswell, I think. There's a song on there called, it's gonna drive me nuts. Appalachia Woman, something woman. I'll look it up and text it to you. But
okay.
And see, and that's another so music geek thing to do. Oh, you don't know about this record? Well, here, let me that's for 10 minutes. And Waddy Wachtel played slide on this one song.
For 3 notes.
3 notes. It's the same 3 over and over. But back then they had to splice it together. They just couldn't copy and paste on a screen.
So the Harry Chapin record then that was a big personal influence. Is that what led you then to the point of the professional avenue that you took, and what was then the album that you would say was the professional album of influence? So I don't know if I could answer that one.
What led me to ending up in radio?
Yeah.
I failed at every legitimate effort I ever made up to that point. Seriously. Okay, there's a punchline coming. No, there's not. Ask my parents. Standing in line at a college bookstore, again, the music geek thing, we think we know more than anyone possibly else could know. I'm standing in line at a college bookstore, and the guy in front of me is rocking the Walkman, the cassette Walkman, okay? And I can hear what he's listening to. And my first thought was, well, how could he possibly know that record? He can't be as cool as me. It was a band I liked. We got to talking, and he's like, you can get a credit hour if you just come over and hang out at the radio station. Really? And then that was it. That went from that to all the I've had literally every job in radio. I've worn the mascot suit, giant fiberglass frog head, parades, dunking booths, bungee jumping, anything that you could do at some point coming up. That's what led to it. And he was listening to Bauhaus. Because Sanity Assassin, it wasn't Bela Lugosi's Dead. I want to say it was something that had the skies gone out or something. It was a Bauhaus record, and I could hear it. Wait a minute, how did that? And so Bauhaus and headphones is what started me in radio. Had nothing to do with what I was doing in school.
So there was nothing else to do. So let's try this. Nothing else.
One credit hour to go hang out at a radio station? Yeah. Sure. You know what my job was? Another music thing. My job, I had to be there 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. My job was to do the news and sports in between the classical music show. From 10 minutes till the top, I did 7 minutes of news, 3 minutes of sports, and then I would press the button to fire the intro for the next record on a show called Symphony Hall. And it was hosted by a local TV guy that knew what was up with classical music. I knew nothing about it, but me having to sit there, listen to that, I found a lot of classical music, 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. Okay, I'll do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I found out who Bela Bartok was. I felt like I was getting an education,
So when you first then got into the radio, what you said Bauhaus was playing, what professionally, what kind of music were you playing when you first got into radio? And was it a college or an independent type station,
No,
or was it a?
no. My first gigs, well, you know, that's coming up. You don't start full time anywhere anyway. Yeah, it's like, hey, you want to work midnight to 6 twice a week? Yep.
Yep.
The first place I worked part time was full service AC. So that was Barry Manilow. A hip hour would get you a Dobie Gray song right on, you know, and there was nothing wrong with that. And I learned that was a great place to learn because it required me to create a character that really wasn't me. I'm in my mid-20s. What in God's name do I know about a soccer mom driving a van listening to Barry Manilow's soft, easygoing favorites of yesterday and today, right? I still remember the jingles. I still remember all of it. Then my first full-time job was at a rock station. And rock at that point was hair metal. I know that's not disparagingly meant. Spandex, really ugly, pointy, stupid looking guitars, lots of big hair, the occasional sequined cod piece, right? Nothing wrong with that, but I'm doing nights in a 5-hour, 7 to midnight shift. Every night I was gonna have 4 Van Halen songs. Okay, there might be a couple AC/DC songs in there if it was later. Okay, Zeppelin if they underscheduled the hour and needed 8 minutes to fill. There was going to be Poison, there was going to be Motley Crue, there was going to be Vixen, there was going to be all of these spandex things. And it wasn't bad, but there was just so much of it. And that's, dude, it was the mid to late 80s, excess sold, you know, greed is good, Bud Fox. It was the same deal. Nirvana came out, Nevermind hit, and rock radio, music-wise, in the span of a month, was fundamentally different, for the better, absolutely for the better. It took about 4 reporting weeks to find out how many spins and the research to come back, right? Pre-internet days. After about a month, there weren't 4 Motley Crue songs in a 5-hour shift. Those spots were going away. They were going away for the Nirvana. And well, the first record, obviously, but they were also going away from anybody else that could be found from Seattle. And when they couldn't find any more Soundgardens and Pearl Jams and all of that, when they couldn't do that anymore, they went retro, and the stuff that college radio had played 5 years ago that was too stupid and goofy suddenly became, okay. REM pre-intelligible could be played. Something like Murmur would show up just to fill the space, right? Because music directors were creating a specific category for the Seattle stuff. It's like the Todd Snyder song. The band that got signed that wasn't even really a band, it was literally like that. If you were in a band in Seattle, somebody wanted to sign you. It fundamentally changed rock radio, and much for the better. The good, heavy hair metal rock that was really good, we still remember it. We still talk about Van Halen. We still talk about the AC/DC's spandex rock, but some of those bands, if they were good enough for the test of time, they're still around. You're not going to tune in anytime soon and hear 3 Motley Crue songs in the span of a 5-hour shift anymore. So, and that's a good thing, as Martha would say.
So given all that you just talked about, then the album that was the most influential or impactful professionally is, can't wait to hear what the selection is given what you just talked about.
It was Nevermind, and it was a record connected semi to Nevermind. Do you remember the Temple of the Dog record?
I do.
Okay, do you know the story behind that?
I was working at the National Record Mart when that came out. And so,
you'll know this then. Okay. That record came out, and then it got pulled. Because Temple of the Dog, it was Soundgarden, and it was Pearl Jam. At the time, Pearl Jam was not, nobody knew about Pearl Jam. It was, people knew about Soundgarden.
Mm-hmm.
Tribute record to the lead singer of Mother Love Bone, I think it was. I think. That record came out. I got a copy. Pure stupid luck. This looks okay. the college record store, the college radio station, our record deal, I could go down there and pick out 2 CDs a week. So you had to be paying attention. I'm like, all right. But after about that record was out a month, they pulled it because the record company got nervous that nobody had ever heard of Pearl Jam before. 6, 7 months later, suddenly, hey, Pearl Jam, huh? Comes back. But that record, that was another one. Nirvana changed all of that. Whether you dug Nevermind or not, whether you liked Smells Like Teen Spirit, everything fundamentally was different and more open. And it was wonderful. Well, think about this. If that record doesn't come out, do I own 6 or 7 Foo Fighters records? I don't. Okay. And if that record doesn't come out, regular rock radio still doesn't play B-52s unless it's like a Friday afternoon, get drunk weekend kickoff celebration. Nobody was playing B-52s. Nobody was playing Talking Heads, Ramones. None of that stuff was on rock radio. That Nirvana record opened everything up, and it went from, okay, we need a Seattle band to, well, we need a grunge band to, well, we need something that used to be underground 5 years ago. And that's where the Modern Lovers, another record, that first Modern Lovers record, okay, the drummer in that band ended up being the drummer for the Cars. The keyboard player in that band ended up being the keyboard player for the Talking Heads. And then you got little Jonathan Richman singing with the adenoid problems he's had for 40 years. That record doesn't happen. They Might Be Giants was good in college radio. They Might Be Giants don't go mainstream unless the thought process opened up, and the thought process absolutely started with Nirvana. It wasn't, yay, look at the new beauty. It was, how can we make money with other stuff? But it still opened up all of those other avenues.
Which in turn helped open up avenues for you professionally and down the path of radio, right?
Talking out loud for money, Rob. That's all it is, dude. That's it.
I love the path, and I love the the influence that these records had. And I having these conversations with people has been a lot, very much a learning process for me too, in that I didn't necessarily put the stock in Nevermind or Nirvana that from that perspective.
Okay, but I don't emotionally, personally, it didn't move me like it moved the rock radio industry. It was a great record, and I appreciate everything they have. No, it's just like Frank Zappa. I love Frank Zappa. I've got Frank Zappa on my wall. Some Frank Zappa is freaking unlistenable. Okay, Tom Waits. I love Tom Waits. Some of it, it's like getting ahead with a ball-peen hammer. It totally, that's the beauty of it. If you can find somebody that is so good, you recognize, okay, they're over your head, you back up and go back and listen to some Poison just to feel better about yourself.
Yeah, I do. I'm a fan of Frank Zappa. I saw him at the I think it was the Syria Mosque, and but I have to be in the mood. He's not.
Oh, totally.
And it's been a while since I've been in the mood, but it might even be every couple of years.
Yeah, it's not a light listen.
Yeah, it's not just background music. You need to devote some time.
And Tom Waits is the same way. But I think that's kind of true of all music. If I'm in the right mood, I can listen to bubblegum pop. But to me, if I want to get myself in a good mood, or if I want to put the iPod on and I want to be in a mood better when I'm done, Bare Naked Ladies. Naked Ladies, They Might Be Giants. If you can listen to either of those bands for 20 minutes and still be ticked off, there's something wrong with you. Even the sad songs, you listen, Anna Ing is a weird and sad song, but at the end you're like, okay, I like that. Any Bare Naked Ladies song. It's all about the mood. You're exactly right.
So with what's happening today in music, things have changed so much since the time of Nirvana, since the time that you were in classic rock radio and that type of thing.
When I was stealing CDs to eat.
Yeah. have we passed a point of no return though, or the band? I mean, we don't really get too many artists that you follow now, where you wait for, okay, next year, then, you know, when's their new album coming out? Let's see how have they grown, or have they taken a step backwards? Is the band thing done, or do you think that that's still there? We just have to look for it.
There's as the saying goes, as long as there's 4 or 5 ticked off kids that hang out behind the gym, there's going to be bands. Of course, there's going to be bands. It's totally different now because of technology. You know, the era I'm talking about, if you got played on regular, whatever that is, rock radio, that meant you were signed by somebody, maybe 4 or 5 different companies that existed at that time. That was it. If you weren't signed by one of them, the Casablancas are already, you can run down the list. If you weren't one of them, record radio stations weren't going to play you. Period. The end. Technology, if I want to sit here and make a record, I can make a record. If I want to distribute the record, I can distribute the record. It's totally different. That DIY method that punk music had, just turn the mics on and put a cassette in and we'll record it and then we'll sell it. They'll sell it behind the counter at the record stores, right? That exists now, but it exists with technology. The reach is worldwide. There's always going to be kids or anybody that will want to be musically creative, always. And they're going to get together and they're going to play, always. Now they can distribute it. It's much more a survival of the fittest in terms of talent, whatever the definition of that is, but it's much less a survival of the fittest that it's, you know, who your A&R person is. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You don't go on tour and worry about losing money by the end of the tour because the record company took it all. And that's gone. The opportunities are there. If it's good enough, if it moves people, people will pay attention to it. If you need to move people, you will find a way to do that, whether it's writing or music or whatever. The distribution system's more fair, more harsh. You put a song on the internet, how long it takes before somebody slags it, right? But the accessibility is like it's never been. Yeah. Absolutely limitless.
So in our last couple of minutes here, is there a band or is there some artist right now or something you're listening to that everybody should know about? Something that is one of those maybe closely held secrets that you have, or something that you just think, hey, everybody should hear this?
I'm several years behind. I go through phases. I will listen to the same artist for 3 months and then I'm over it and then I'll go back. Same with food. I'll eat the same meal for 3 months and then I won't eat it for 6 months. I'm still on a Frank Turner kick. I don't even know if he's got anything new, but the first 2 things that I heard from him, I listened to Frank Turner and I go back. It's like life. The stuff that soothes you, you're drawn back to it. Here, let me look. What about? All right. Well, right now, Chris Thomas King.
Okay.
Okay.
So all right.
I go through, and it's based on mood. I will listen to happy music. I'll listen to the Bare Naked Ladies and all that stuff. But as far as new, I hate to say there's nothing that there's a lot of stuff I like. Listening to YEP, I hear stuff I like all the time. But as far as hearing something and going, oh my God, what was that? Not recently, but that's right. There's kids in basements making music. There's going to be something. Oh, and Wire. I've been listening to Wire a lot lately for no good reason at all. I don't know when.
You don't need a good reason.
That's the beauty of music.
That's the beauty of
Listen
music.
to that because I like it.
Well, Ed, thanks. It's been a ton of fun talking to you about the influences and music history and your history through through radio. You gave us you've given us a lot of laughs over the years, and for a good reason.
No, I didn't.
We were
Paulson,
expecting
no, I
them.
didn't. Paulson wrote those scripts. He would just poke me with a stick when it was my turn to read my crap. He gives Scott
Well,
credit. Now, he ran the bit and poked people with a stick to let them know it was their turn.
and I think you guys caused possibly, I said the other day to him that I think you guys maybe caused a few accidents, rush hour traffic in the morning, making people laugh. I mean, some funny stuff.
It's amazing where life can take you if you don't take it too serious. How about It's like David St. Hubbins. Here lies Eddy Crow, and why not?
Why not?
And why not?
I don't know if there's any better parting words than that. Anything else you want to say before we go?
All I wanted to do was get the obscure Spinal Tap reference, and the rest was crap. Yeah, I'm good.
There's many obscure Spinal Tap references that we can make, and I try to make them throughout, but so few people get them.
Well, you know what? That's what's wrong with society. I thought about that this weekend. Fred Willard passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And Fred Willard, if you don't know Spinal Tap, he's the Army or Air Force officer that's in charge of getting a band stage at their at ease weekend or whatever. And it's like, that should be, if you want to be a music geek and really be a music geek, movies that you should watch. That's one of them. The movie FM with Cleavon Little is the Prince of Darkness. Eileen Brennan is Mother at Night. Alex Karras is Cowboy. Literally, well, if you don't know who Cleavon Little is, the sheriff in Blazing Saddles. These are the things that you need to know about to be able to look at it with a sense of humor. The Spinal Taps, the FMs, anything that mocks what you know will make you appreciate more about what you learn about what you know. And why not?
That might need to be what's on your gravestone someday. I like that.
You know what? I'm leaning towards like an R. Crumb cartoon caption or a Charles Bukowski, something from Ham on Rye, or no, Vonnegut. And I had to laugh like hell.
Oh, great time. Thank you so much, Eddy. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll talk to you again sometime soon. And thank you very much.
Anytime, Rob. Anytime.
All right.